Welcome to the course on LTE IoT. That is, in this course, we are going to see how LTE networks can be part of IoT ecosystem and how they could provide the connectivity for the IoT devices. We all know that LTE is actually designed for broadband communications, that is, which could carry huge amount of data over the network. But here we will see the latest release 13 or release 14 specifications by 3GPP. What are all the advancements that what are all the advancements or what are all the specifications that are provided so that LTE can also be used to address the communication or network needs in IoT devices or IoT ecosystem. In this course, we will see broadly what are the connectivity IoT options that 3GPP has provided for connectivity purposes through release 13 and release 14 for IoT devices. And we will see how the network architecture and some of the use cases of these IoT devices. And we will even see the ecosystem of IoT with LTE and other use cases. We will see some of the 3GPP and non-3GPP IoT technologies as well. Just for the comparison, we will see a few non-3GPP technologies as well that are present in the market and what is the role that they play when compared to 3GPP technologies. And we will see few deployment considerations as well as part of our chapter 1. Okay, what is IoT? There are various definitions that are present for the uh, term IoT or Internet of Things. One of such definition is IoT is nothing but ecosystem of smart things that can interact seamlessly and provide a platform for applications and services. What do you mean by smart things? Things which acts in a way that which acts corresponding to its surroundings or it has some kind of intelligence is called as smart things. So what makes things smart? The background computing and the background processing of the information that has been sensed by the sensors that are present by the things, and the communication that is present between the back end and front end Internet of Things makes the things smart so that they can take the decision wisely through the background computing that is going to happen once they send out the data that is present with them. For example, if you take a washing machine, as in then it's just a thing, right? If we connect this washing machine to a internet and over the internet, if we could communicate in the, if you could have the computing facility such that based upon the based upon the rigidness of the cloths or based upon the temperature, whatever it is, if washing machine can take out the decisions independently by itself, then it's a smart thing. Or for example, if you take some sensors which could communicate over the internet, and if we could get back the processed information back to the point, then it's all that is it's all tells us that's the Internet of Things. Or placing the things, kind of providing connectivity to the internet and background applications all together forms an IoT ecosystem. Yeah. So what are all the where are all this can be used? I mean, it can be IoT devices can be categorized into smart cities based IoT devices, networking based IoT devices, smart homes, wearables, healthcare, automotive, mobile computing. In all these places, we could easily see the role of uh, IoT devices. But why we are interested from cellular network perspective towards IoT is, if you see, by 2015 or 2014 or even by today, around some 2018 or 2017, there is already IoT traffic that is present over the existing cellular networks such as LTE or 3G or 2G. If you see, uh, in the transportation line, it's almost 49% of data is actually coming from the things other than human beings. In agriculture, it's already around 33%. In smart cities, around 43%. Energies, it is around 53%. Home monitoring, it's around 50%. Healthcare and pharma, it's already 26%. And if you see, the networks which are carrying actually the data coming from the things are actually designed for broadband communication purposes, which used to carry internet data for multimedia and voice applications, etc. Whereas the nature of the data traffic the devices that were for the devices that was being designed is actually a bussy kind of data which has, I mean, huge amount of data is expected to flow over the networks. But whereas if you see the characteristics of the data from these IoT devices, it is usually a short data which is of very few kilobytes, which is even not infrequent data. And even if it is infrequent data, the amount of data that is coming, that is being generated out of a small thing, out of a sensor, is very, very less. And if we want to utilize the existing network for the same purpose, it would actually uh, actually be a overhead. I mean, the control channel overhead for such a small amount of data is even higher. So for IoT devices, in order to use, they want to use the existing networks, the amount of control channel overhead is huge. That is, the control traffic is itself comparable to the amount of data that is being transported over the network. So there is a network optimization need that is present. So that this 3GPP people, they want to address through their release 13 and release 14. So it's, as the slide mentions, IoT is already there and growing. So better address the problem before it becomes a network challenge. So it's although we can see it's almost 25 billion is the amount of projected uh, things that are going to communicate over the network by 2020. If we see the IoT, if we categorize into different layers, the first come the physical devices or the controllers that are the original devices which are going to generate the data present at multiple locations. Then comes the connectivity part, that is, it acts like a communication link between the things that are going to generate the data and to their background servers. The third comes the data storage and computing. Here it happens. Here all kinds of computings and other decision makings and etc. You can say happen here at the data centers and data storage computing. And finally comes the application layer. It actually decides what is the kind of application that's going to uh, be that's going to be. For example, if I say, if low cost phone is at the physical device and if there is a communication link, and if someone wants to do high MIPS consuming or high computing resources consuming image processing techniques, the techniques that are going to compute comes under the computing part, and the image processing applications such as smoothing or etc comes at the application level. So here in this course we will see the connectivity options that are present. There are various connectivity options. We'll focus especially on cellular networks connectivity options for IoT devices. Basically here, IoT devices, we actually expect a long battery life, low cost and ubiquitous coverage. So, uh, as we have seen, in any IoT ecosystem, there will be a lot of IoT devices and there will be connectivity link, and which are transmitted over the internet to their data storage applications. So in cellular IoT networks, actually it is the cellular network that will exchange the data and control between IoT devices and the backend systems. So what are all the technologies that are already present in this domain for IoT? There are 3GPP technologies such as narrowband IoT and evolved MTC or eMTC and ECGSM are the 3GPP technologies, that is enhanced coverage GSM, or evolved machine type communications. These are all the 3GPP technologies that are present for the IoT solutions. And there are few other proprietary technologies such as Sigfox and LoRa. Uh, these technologies are actually proprietary, but in a way, they too need an ecosystem to provide the communication link for IoT devices. Let us compare the differences between the 3GPP and non-3GPP IoT devices, I mean IoT technologies. The main thing that is crucial for any IoT device is the range. That is, what is the range of communication, or what is the distance over which the cellular network can provide the connectivity. Usually, the range is measured not in amounts of distance, whereas it is measured through a term called as MCL, which is maximum coupling loss. Maximum coupling loss is actually the difference between the transmission power at the transmitter side minus the receiver sensitivity, which is converted into dBm or decibels. So, the maximum coupling loss for usual LTE networks would be around 140 dB. Higher the maximum coupling loss, greater the range, and greater the range and higher the MCL. So Sigfox has around 160 dB of MCL, whereas LoRa has 157 dB of coupling loss, and ECGSM, which is a release 13 standard by 3GPP, has 164 dB, which is quite high when compared to proprietary technologies, whereas release 13 Cat-M1 or EMTC has 156 and NB-IoT has 164 dB of MCL. And for Sigfox and LoRa to uses unlicensed spectrum, that is around 900 megahertz for the communication, whereas all the 3GPP technologies use the licensed spectrum. GSM uses around 800 to 900 megahertz spectrum, and release 13 Cat-M1 and NB1 they use FD licensed bands, FDD and TDD bands, all the LTE bands that we have seen or that is present for LTE networks. The bandwidth requirements for Sigfox is around 100 Hz, whereas LoRa it is lesser than 500 kHz. And if you see for GSM, it is 2.4 megahertz. We all know that the GSM network, the bandwidth for one particular carrier is just 200 kilohertz. The term 2.4 megahertz comes here because for GSM, we cannot operate with the frequency reuse of 1. At least it needs the frequency reuse of 12, which takes the bandwidth requirements to 2.4 megahertz. Whereas if you see for Cat-M1, it is 1.08 megahertz, which is 6 RBs or 6 resource blocks. For NB1, it is just 180 kilohertz, which is 1 PRB, one physical resource block. The data rate, when it comes, it will be proportional to the bandwidth. As we know, higher the bandwidth, what we can expect, the higher the data rate. For 100 hertz, the data rate is actually lesser than 100 bits per second. For LoRa, it is lesser than 10 kilobits per second. For enhanced GSM, it's around 10 kbps, and for Cat-M1, it's almost 1 Mbps, and for Cat NB2, it is lesser than 20 kbps. And battery life, as we have seen before, for all the IoT devices or IoT networks, it is designed such that it will not drain out the battery. It is expected to last long for more than 10 years. Availability, this Sigfox and LoRa are already technology is already present today, and all the technologies of 3GPP is expected to roll out by 2016, but it has taken some time, and many big companies have rolled out the technologies recently in around 2018 or 2019. LoRa and Sigfox needs a dedicated network. That is, the network elements is dedicated to one particular thing or one particular IoT device. Whereas, as we know, this LTE standard can use for multiple UEs. Can it's same as cellular technologies actually. So it's a shared network kind of technology where of the physical channels and other channels are shared. So that is one of the drawback when compared with proprietary technologies when compared to 3GPP technologies. And proprietary technologies are basically ad hoc in nature and they don't have huge ecosystem like LTE. They are very niche in number and they're very small. Whereas if you see the 3GPP technologies, LTE is present everywhere. And when it comes to GSM, it is less efficient and uh, many of and one of the drawback with the GSM, EC GSM is many of the operators are already moving out away from the GSM. They are just using these GSM channels for just the handover purposes. Apart from that, no major operator are being rolled out, are you being used, I mean, are using this GSM for the connectivity purposes. So LTE has become vastly successful and it is deployed all over the world. So if you could provide a solution for IoT devices through LTE existing network, it is seamless. So they don't have to roll out any new network. So it's just a software upgrade that if they could install this particular software, the network is now IoT compatible. So in this lecture, we will cover only the LTE technologies, that is LTE Cat M1 and LTE Cat NB1 from release 13. We will see various details of how these two technologies will address the IoT needs from a connectivity perspective.